Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about PlayStation 3 emulation with RPCS3, and RPCS3 I think just got a little bit more friendly to a lot more people. So the RPCS3 team posted this update up on Twitter. We now support languages other than English on the RPCS3 UI. And they listed 6 additional languages here. This is pretty big, and I'm guessing it's only going to increase as time goes on. And additionally, the RPCS3 team posted this announcement. RPCS3 is one of the only software out there that utilized Intel's TSX and was a prime example of its capabilities. Due to many CPU security fixes, TSX was completely nerfed, and our implementation became obsolete and unmaintained. As such, we have now fully removed TSX support. For some extra context, RPCS3 gained initial TSX support back in 2017. The TSX instruction set extension was supported on 4th to 10th generation Intel CPUs. Even on the supported CPU architectures, it was patched and eventually disabled by default through newer microcode version. Now, I would argue here that for most people using RPCS3, the RPCS3 team removing TSX will probably have no impact. But we do get some hot takes like this one here. So Vitor says, when I said that RPCS3 was obsolete, some people criticized me. Well, I was right. RPCS3 is an emulator that doesn't evolve, an emulator that has stopped in time. That is the hottest take I have seen today. Now, I don't know about you, but I find the internet a very fascinating and weird place. Anyways, here, I'm not going to pick apart this whole thing because I think the whole statement is incorrect. Even this first line here, some people criticized him. I don't think some is the right word. I think everyone would. But moving on from all of that, next up we're talking about Windows emulation on Android with GameHub Lite, where GameHub Lite is a more privacy-focused, I think that's a good way of saying it, privacy-focused modification of GameHub. And GameHub Lite version 5.0.1 patch just dropped. So this information is right up on their GitHub, and if you're interested and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are within the GitHub link in the bottom of the description below. I don't hide my sources, unless I forget to hit publish and accidentally hit save draft like I did yesterday. Anyways, they say here the files needed to contribute to the project and patch GameHub 5.1.0 yourself are now released. Completely reworked the initial patching approach. Revanced patch is still a work in progress. Feel free to contribute to this if you are comfortable with revanced. Easy update patches after modifications. Work on macOS, Linux, maybe Windows. It is worth noting the versioning numbers here. So that's for GameHub version 5.1.0 and very different from something like this here, GameHub Lite version 5.3.3 pre-release, which does include the APK. Again, if you're interested, like everything we talk about, links are within that GitHub link below. And speaking about interesting stuff and emulators, next up here, we're talking about Cardputer Game Station emulators, which is full-speed emulators running NES, Game Boy, Game Gear, Master System, Genesis, Mega Drive, Neo Geo Pocket, WonderSwan, Lynx, and PC Engine on the ESP32 M5 stack Cardputer. Now, for those wondering what an ESP32 M5 stack Cardputer is, well, here you go. It's a $30 device. It's a very interesting device and also super interesting that all of those emulators now work on this thing. Now, I'm not going to lie here. This is not at all the optimal way to probably experience these systems, but at the same time, I mean, that is super cool that they're working on this weird little device. At the time of filming, version 0.7 is the latest and greatest update. And with this update for version 0.7, they have added in Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulation and also saving for WonderSwan. And speaking about stuff that works with multiple emulators, next up here we're talking about Papaya, which is a games launcher available on the Google Play Store. And this one has launched. It's relatively new. I'm not overly familiar with it, and it does seem to be gaining in popularity. So they say here, Papaya transforms your device into a game console, manage and launch your Android games, manage your retro games and launch them in external emulators, launch your game streams and external apps, and full gamepad and touch support. Now, it is worth noting here that Papaya seems to be in alpha, which means there may be some serious bugs and issues with it and features just flat out missing, obviously with more stuff to come. They do have a very interesting post up on Reddit emulation on Android that I would recommend checking out because they talk about what the emulator, what the front end currently can do and what it can't. I mean, they say right here, you can't sort the list of platforms yet in this version. They have submitted an update, it just hasn't been published yet. You can't edit the game details with custom covers yet, and no custom scraper settings yet. And it is worth noting that Papaya is not free nor open source, and with a lot of different front ends out there, we're seeing more and more paid ones pop up, like Nosland and ESDE, and well, Launchbox is there already too. So there's a lot of different paid ones out there, and they say that you can use this one free for 30 days to test to see if it fits your needs. And there's an unlimited license that's currently priced at $1.88. And the license will be valid for the beta versions and the full release versions, and there still might be some free licenses available on their Discord. But speaking about free and open source, next up we're talking about CachyOS. CachyOS, for those who are unaware, is a Linux distribution based on Arch Linux. It's kind of like SteamOS, however SteamOS is immutable. This one is geared towards gaming, although you can use it for not gaming purposes too. And CachyOS just published a real interesting November update. If you are interested in the nuts and bolts of CachyOS, I would recommend checking out their latest blog post here with a whole lot of information. I am going to point out a couple of things here. So first and foremost here, they've added support for the ROG Xbox Ally and the ROG Xbox Ally X. And I think that is super exciting and something I will be checking out on my Xbox Ally X. And secondly here, they've seemingly made the install process a little bit more straightforward and user-friendly. They've added support for the Plasma Login Manager and Cosmic Greeter. They say, while we plan to use Plasma Login Manager as a replacement for SDDM in the future, we are holding it back for now as it currently lacks an integration with KDE settings. However, the Cosmic Greeter is now used for Cosmic installations, providing a smoother experience with the Cosmic desktop. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about System76's Cosmic desktop environment, and I'm really glad to see distributions taking advantage of it. Additionally here, because yes, there's more, there's a lot more in this one, but they do say they've introduced a tuned per game shader cache with larger limits, which helps prevent cache overflow and reduces the need to recompile shaders, which may help out performance. And speaking about performance, next up here we're talking about a brand new handheld from Ayaneo. This one is called the Next 2, and it features an AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 395, which this thing is going to be no slouch. Performance will probably be very comparable to something like the GPD Win 5. Now, I would argue the big difference between something like this and the GPD Win 5 is the fact that this does have a built-in battery. It's a 115 watt-hour battery, and I'm guessing here if you are pushing this thing, you're probably going to need it consistently plugged in. But at the same time here, if you are interested in learning more about this one, they've got like a 2-hour showcase on their YouTube channel. Unfortunately, at this point in time, I don't know how these devices will be configured in terms of RAM and storage and options available. I'm going to guess there's going to be multiple tiers of these things, but at the same time, I just don't know yet. I don't even know the price. But taking a look, I am very curious to see how these devices pan out overall. And I'm also very curious about the fan noise. The GPD Win 5 is not a quiet device at all, and there are some complaints about how loud those fans get. And I'm curious to see if that's just a product of the AI Plus 395 or if that is just the design of the handheld. I'd be very curious to hear the fan noises in this. Now, obviously, you can dial back the TDP a little bit to try to reduce the fan noise and temperature at the cost of performance. And this one goes up to 85 watts overall. If I'm not mistaken, the GPD Win 5 with the exact same chip goes up to 75 watts. I might be incorrect with that, but I don't think so. If I am, let me know in the comments below. Not about the 85 watts, it says it right here, but about the GPD Win 5. On a side note too, very interestingly here, the Xbox Ally X by default, because you can play around with the settings, by default it's like 17 watts. You can crank it up to 35 watts. And the Steam Deck, by comparison, the max by default is 15 watts. So these are very powerful chips, and arguably the performance of something like the Ayaneo Next 2 will stomp the Xbox Ally X and the Steam Deck. And the screen on this one's a 9.06-inch OLED at 2400 by 1504 with HDR. Let me know your thoughts about the Ayaneo Next 2 in the comments below, how you think it's going to stack up against something like the GPD Win 5. And also, what do you think this is going to be priced at? Arguably here, these things are not going to be cheap. More than likely it's due to the AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 395. But at the same time, the rest of the device also feels very premium just based on the specs. Next up here, we're talking about RetroAssembly. If you're unfamiliar with RetroAssembly, it's an open source personal retro game cabinet that can run emulators and browsers. It can also synchronize game libraries and save files. It can be used as an online service or self-hosted with Docker. And RetroAssembly just got a brand new update to version 4. So with this update, there's fixes, improvements, and brand new features. They've redesigned the library homepage, there's sortable game lists, upgraded emulators, and even more. And speaking about even more, last up here, we're talking about PlayStation 2 and Final Fantasy X2 Internal plus Last Mission. And if you haven't heard about this game, or if you're interested in this game, it does have a brand new English translation patch. So the person behind this one says, after many years revisiting Final Fantasy X2, I decided to fulfill an old dream to bring an English translation of the international version to the PS2. This game never had an official English version on the PS2, although an HD remaster version was later released for the PS Vita and PS3. This was the initial inspiration for me to accept this challenge, and the goal was simple but ambitious. For the translation status on this one, they say menus 100%, missions 100%, event texts 100%, and textures and images 100%. If you're interested and wanted to learn more about it, again, like everything we talk about, links are within that GitHub link below. And speaking about fan-made stuff, last up here, we're talking about The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Gyarados Fortress, Unreal Engine 5, and R1 Link. And there's a brand new video up on YouTube that's just over 9 minutes long, 9 minutes and 1 second to be specific, that I think is super cool. Now, I am 99% sure this was not made with AI. If it was, please let me know in the comments below. But the overall animations, the overall scenes here, the overall story, I find really neat and definitely worth a watch. Honestly, I'm surprised this YouTube channel doesn't have more subscribers based on how good this content is. There is a lot of really, really neat stuff on this YouTube channel. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. The legendary One Fluff today is sleeping on our bed. She's just past rate out. I'm not going to bother her. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.